I'm so glad you're here on the Clark Howard Show. You know, our mission is to serve you with advice and information that empowers you to make better financial decisions in your life. We're going to start out this first day of August with some great news. Do you know there's something you can do that's free that may help you live longer and happier? Now, something that does not make me happier is a recent story I saw about elderly women being ripped off by a door-to-door gutter salesperson. If you're a homeowner, when somebody stops by and is pitching something to you, what do? You just say, great, I'll just sign here. No, you don't. We're going to talk that through. So, do you know that the more you face life emotionally, mentally, with regrets, unhappiness, and all the rest, that this is not baloney. The more you are possessed by negative thoughts, regardless of what life's dealt you, the more it affects your health and your life. Okay, so I got one for you. There was a study done recently that, you know, there's always a study of this, that, or the other. But this one is in the Journal of the American Medical Association, whatever credibility you give it, peer-reviewed, that studied almost 50,000 women who were older and found the stronger their positive feelings were, the more they were like, gosh, I feel so lucky about this or that or the other. They dwell on the good and the positive, even if they wake up with this problem or that problem or the other. And they are just living a life of appreciation, gratitude, if you will, for how their life is. Do you know that lowers, and the study showed it clearly, lowers their mortality risk, the chance they're going to die in the next 36 months. I mean, you can go read the story if you want to, or there's articles about it that have appeared around, you know, in various news sources. And there will always be people who will be Eeyore. I don't believe that. Well, what about what happened to me? Yeah, all of us are dealt bad hands from time to time. Some of us dealt worse hands than others. And you could just say from that, well, you know, whatever. You know, when I had my heart operation 8 months ago, and I actually read all the stuff about mortality risk and all that, and I would say to somebody, this is the greatest thing ever. I mean, I'm dying here right now, and I got this device in me. I have a 30% chance that I'm going to live 10 more years. And I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. And other people are like, wait a minute. There's a 70% chance you're going to die? And I would say, hey, listen, if I don't have this, there's a 100% chance that I'm dead any day or week now. Maybe month now. I'm a dead man. And they got this little cow valve they're going to put in me. It gives me a 30% chance of being alive 10 years from now. I'm like, that's great stuff. And so in life, so much of it is what energy we bring to it, regardless of what curveballs are brought to us. And yes, there are circumstances that are absolutely horrific. I have a friend, he's not a close friend, but he's a friend, who found out earlier this year that he's dying of a terminal cancer. And there's no chance. And he knows that. And he has talked about it and written about it because he's a writer. And he has been so positive facing consequences that were not his own doing. It just happened. And this is a case where gratitude is not going to give him longer life. He is terminal with a condition that there is no survival. But even how you live out what for him is a death sentence makes such a difference in those final months you have. Because you never know what twists and turns the whole run of your life is going to have. And we're all going to have good moments and we're going to have bad. It's how we handle those that is the difference. Be appreciative more so than human nature is when something really good happens to us. And when something not so good happens or something bad happens, real test of character is when we're challenged and how you deal with it. Just remember, the whole idea of being positive is not Pollyanna, even though I've been accused of being Pollyanna repeatedly. The thing is that being positive has its own reward. Not necessarily being unrealistic, but positive energy pays, and it's free.
You always make fun of my Christa colored glasses.
Well, it is true that you and I in many ways are opposite sides of the same coin. And so there are times you'll hear me say something, you'll be like, wow, he sure is sailing up denial. And then you will say something through your Christa colored glasses. It's like, well, and you always do a line from a movie I've never seen. Well, you're always saying there's a chance.
Oh, that's Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Haven't seen that one.
Oh, you would love that one. Okay, Linda in New York says, I recently wanted to turn off my internet at my Snowbird residence for 6 months. The monthly amount has gone from $20 to $54.
Boy.
The promotion has expired. The representative told me I could leave the account active for $8 a month with no service to avoid leakage in the line. I was told I may have a problem with quality when I turn on my service again due to this leakage. Have you ever heard of such a thing? I opted to just have the service turned off.
So
I've never heard that one.
I've only heard of what they refer to as leakage if you're in an area with old DSL. DSL used to be a common technology that phone companies would use for internet, prior wave of technology. Not heard of it in a more modern era. That sounds like a marketing thing. Cut the internet off when you go back north and when you go back to Snowbird country. Then you want to be a free agent. You're new. You sign up again with the phone company or the cable company, or you do the Verizon or T-Mobile wireless home internet during the 6 months you're there. And every year, if you're a free agent, they always give better deals to new customers than they do to existing. So you're doing the right thing.
Rajan in Florida says, I'm trying to open a 529 plan for my 10-year-old son with money that he's earned from allowance for having good grades, chores, and then holiday and birthday funds. I was looking at the Fidelity New Hampshire plans and the Utah plans. I can't really decide which one I want to open, and I just wanted some input between the two. Some help, please, in the right direction. Thanks again for what you guys are doing. Been a listener for about 10 years now.
Well, thank you for those 10 years. And both plans are great. They're on our list of the country's lowest cost 529 plans. You live in Florida where there's no state income tax benefit. Florida's plan is geared towards prepaid tuition. If you're going to teach your 10-year-old son various Florida state schools fight songs and con your kid that the only school they can go to is a Florida state school, then you would probably want to look at Florida's prepaid tuition plan. But if you want your son to be a free agent, be able to go anywhere in the country, you will do fine with either of the two Fidelity plans in New Hampshire or the one in Utah. If you go to our 529 plan guide at clark.com/529, there are very specific funding choices you want to make in either of those two plans, and we have the direct link for you there and explain it.
Stephen in Texas says, do you have any tips on how to conveniently deposit cash these days?
No.
My bank's branch locations are not convenient for me, and their ATM network doesn't accept cash deposits. The bank offers a service where I can deposit cash inside drugstores using a QR code generated from their app, but now a certain drugstore chain turns me away unless I sign up for their silly rewards program. I hate cash, but I sell things on Facebook Marketplace, and people usually pay in cash. I need to find an easier way to digitize the cash I receive, and I figured you would have some ideas.
Okay, Stephen, first of all, let's go back to basics. Why don't you just take that cash and use it for your walking around spending as an alternative, because you're going through a lot of complications. I worry about you depositing cash at the drugstore and somehow you do the QR code, the money's deposited, never shows up in your account, and the bank is, everybody's pointing fingers and they say, well, that's the drugstore's fault and that's your fault. I mean, you're worried about you having to sign up for their loyalty program. I don't care about that. I'm worried about your money not being accountable and you lose it. You deposit at a financial institution that has ATM-based deposit, and they later don't credit you with all the money, say it wasn't all there, say it wasn't there at all. I mean, I don't like any of this. What I like is for you to use a financial institution, a credit union or a bank that is, if you do want to deposit, that during banking or credit union hours, you go in person and you deposit that money with a human teller, and you are given a receipt for that cash. But my first favorite thing is that you just spend that cash on what you normally would pay some other way, like debit card or credit card or whatever card. And that way you're in complete control of that cash. And maybe another listener or viewer has a suggestion of a much better way that they deal with it when they're in a cash-based business than me going back to basics and saying, they're paying you in cash, you pay for things in cash. Just my thought. Coming up ahead, it made great TV, these two elderly women that were ripped off on having gutters put in at their homes. And it's a story you could run every single day on television stations, on their news, in every single television market. And it's not just about the elderly. We got to talk. It always makes it even more pulling at the heartstrings when someone older gets scammed. And a fellow I know is a great investigative reporter named Justin Gray, who works for a TV affiliate in Atlanta and also, I think, airs his stuff on other stations as well, did a story about an 83-year-old woman who was scammed by a door-to-door gutter salesperson and was really, as she said, really sweet and seemed like such a nice person, and sold her gutters at almost 9 times the market price for gutters for her home. And then they found somebody else who was sold gutters at like 6 times what they should be and on like that. And it's not even important that this was gutters, that kind of thing. It's about what happens to people of any age when a door-to-door salesperson for home improvements comes to pitch at your home. Generally under the law, unless a state has an elder abuse statute, and it was an elderly homeowner, you may possibly, ultimately, by a thin reed, have some ability to get help from a statute a state has advocating for an elderly relative or friend who gets ripped off on a home improvement. But the reality is, this is something that happens to people of any age, any scenario, home improvement, that smooth talking, smiling, home improvement person is a danger to your wallet. Our own Christa, she didn't even know I was going to bring this up, in 2009, suffered a catastrophic flood that destroyed your home. Mm-hmm. And it was...
Not totally destroyed, but
well,
it was a lot of damage.
A lot of damage, and you rebuilt the most beautiful home ever.
And sold it.
But you lived in it for a good while. You turned something into lemons into wonderful lemonade.
Yeah,
at great
we raised
cost.
it up so it wouldn't
and
flood anymore.
Rebuilt it gorgeous, a gorgeous home. But early in that process, you were so emotionally wrecked by what had happened. You got ripped off big time by people who were that smiling, friendly face at the door.
Oh, yeah, the people doing the restoration, that was so hard. Like, just pulling the stuff out, and, yeah, it was a nightmare.
And charging you way too much money and lying
like saying they were,
Yeah. I mean, it can happen in so many different circumstances. You think about the terrible problems that have happened with flooding and what happened to so many people in Texas from the hurricane damage recently. Gosh, those power outages were terrible, too. But the people dealing with property damage, and then you have those friendly faces come up. So there's this thing where it can happen in many different ways, many different circumstances, where, like in your case, you just wanted your life back together, and that happens after a natural disaster. And so you're not
racing
thinking
against
clearly.
Time too. If you don't want mold and things like that in that kind of situation, or people
so
have a fire and they...
So you don't check references, and all kinds of things go wrong. Mm-hmm. And so after a natural disaster, you got to take that deep breath. You feel like you're racing the clock, and you are. You still have to take the time to vet who it is you're hiring, as you found out the hard way. Mm-hmm. And then for you as a homeowner, when there is no crisis going on, but a smooth-talking salesperson says, I've been noticing you need blah, 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 blah. And before you know it, they're such a sweet talker. You've signed something without shopping the market, without checking references, without whatever. And you cannot turn the clock back in almost all circumstances. Now, there is the door-to-door rule that you've got 3 days in which to say, I don't want it. You know what these companies do, though? Like what happened in this thing with the gutters. They show up immediately and start installing them. Mm-hmm. So your 3-day gets wiped out because they know, if you think about it, wait, I should find out what my neighbor did, blah, 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 recently. What did they pay? Who did they use? Take the time. I don't care how wonderful that person is standing there at your home. Man, do not just sign. Make sure if you have aging relatives, you have this conversation with them, because they're the sitting ducks. They're who these door-to-door salespeople are looking for.
Oh, the pine straw scam. That happens
I don't
all
know
the
the
time.
pine straw scam.
Oh, my gosh. They always come to my door, even though I have a no soliciting sign. People will come by and they have a trailer with pine straw, and they're like, we just did your neighbor's house or someone down the street. We have extra pine straw. And they'll quote you an amount and how many bales they think they'll have to use of pine straw, and then they come back and tell you they use 300 times that amount or whatever it is, and try to charge you thousands of dollars, and then threaten you if you're not willing to pay them right away. I haven't gotten taken by it, but a lot of people I know have. It's really bad.
The pine straw scam.
That's what I call it.
Okay, that's one I have. That's a new one on me.
Say, no, sorry, I've got someone doing my pine straw already. I don't need it.
Remember,
Thanks.
a quick decision is your enemy.
Nobody's just in your neighborhood.
Right.
Okay, Christine in Arizona says, electric vehicle buyers beware. I recently purchased a Grand Cherokee Hybrid plug-in. After negotiating before arriving at the dealership, we thought we had all our ducks in the row until the moment the F&I guy turned the computer screen towards us and had my husband complete Form 15400 on the IRS.gov website, signing over the $3,750 credit to the dealership. After 6 hours at the dealership, this was the very last action. At no point during the pre-negotiations, during the test drive, or at time with the salesperson was it mentioned that the tax credit was part of the discount they gave to us. We emailed the owner to address this issue along with others like the BBB sign displayed, but the business is not accredited. It was the wrong user manual. Also, it was the wrong user manual in the car, and to provide an opportunity to rectify the issues. He responded within 24 hours with the promise to look into it, and we have not heard back for 4 weeks despite a follow-up request. What would you recommend would be our next step to warn other potential buyers or report them for non-disclosure and deceptive practices?
So, Christine, I know you'd been at the dealer a long time.
6 hours.
6 hours. That's
Ugh.
called the grind. And what they're doing is they're trying to stretch it, make sure you're not hydrated properly, that you're hungry. And in the grind, and there are some unbelievably gross expressions they use at not the most honest dealers.
Yeah,
No, many dealers are really honest, where they have these expressions where they really use the grind to great effect. This is an example. 6 hours. They wore you down. When the F&I man pulled that you know, as finance and insurance, where all the profit is in a dealer on new and used. When they then pop that screen around, they want you to sign away your money, because that was your money for that federal tax credit that they swiped from you. It should have been on the paperwork lowering your price another $37.50. Your only power was at that point to leave and not execute the deal. Once you said, well, I'm going to deal with this later, I'm tired, we love the vehicle, we want to go, they had you. The fact that the owner of the dealership has blown you off means that that's exactly the way that owner wants that dealership run, period. The thing you've done, Christine, in this case is no great satisfaction, is you've given a clear message to your fellow listener and viewer. You can write you can file a complaint with the manufacturer. They're usually looking the other way at what goes on at their dealers. You can see if Arizona, through the Arizona State Automobile Dealers Association, has a dispute forum which is voluntary, where you can file a complaint against the dealer with the state chapter of the National Automobile Dealers Association and see if they have a way for you to resolve this as a formal complaint through their process. I don't know if Arizona has one, but that would be the thing I would do next. But the number one thing, the great power you have is your 2 feet. And when something starts going bad at a dealer, what you do is you exit and do not proceed with the purchase, because they stole $3,750 from you, clear as day.
Do you still recommend picketing once you check the local ordinances and rules about that? Like you just with a sign that says, ask me before you buy a car at this dealership?
Yeah, you have to stick strictly to the facts. Mm-hmm. You can't get emotional, but you got to make sure what the rules are in that jurisdiction for picket.
Yeah, how far away you have to be from the property.
And you need to borrow a neighbor's kids, because when you have little kids walking back on the right-of-way, back and forth with the sign, that's when you really get action from the dealer. And they will be surreptitiously videoing you on a phone. So you want to, again, not be emotional. Say, here's what happened. And you just state the facts. You don't call them crooks or anything like that. You just, this is what happened, and nobody's helping me, period.
Michael in Georgia says, have you heard of the Comma 3X device that turns most modern cars into self-driving? I had not, but the technology appears to have been around for several years and in use judging by the YouTube videos. Reviews seem to put this open source based device, the size of a GPS, above many built-in manufacturer options other than Tesla, and it works on most roads. It is a fascinating and affordable option I hadn't heard of before. At $1,300, I plan to try it out, as the Honda car model I love does not have a self-driving option, but the Comma 3X would give me what I want very simply.
So people have asked me about the Comma 3X over the years, and I've always said the same thing, Michael. I am a techno idiot. And so the only people who should be using an aftermarket self-driving autopilot kind of thing are people who are natural tinkerers, are people who are intellectually curious and capable with electronics and technology. And you got to pay attention to how it's going to work. I mean, you think about Tesla has spent who knows how many billions of their stockholders' money trying to perfect FSD, full self-drive, and it's still not there yet. It's good, but it's not perfect, and you have to continue to pay attention. So if you're like me, and you would think, hey, this is really great, this is a cheap way to do it, I'm gonna put this in my vehicle, and you're a techno idiot or not techno curious, wouldn't do it.
Paul in Illinois says, I'm evaluating level term life insurance options for my spouse and I. We both work and have 3 children. I have heard and read about the 8 to 12 times salary recommendation, but I also came across the Social Security survivor's benefit. I can't find good information about how to factor in the survivor's benefit into the life insurance coverage. We're both 37, and our youngest child will turn 16 in 2036. My estimated monthly benefit is about $5,900 per month. My wife's is a bit less. Should I factor this in while determining our coverage amounts? I want to ensure that we are covered but not overpaying for coverage that we don't need. For reference, we are considering 20-year policies of $1.2 million and $1 million prior to learning about the survivor's benefit. The difference in monthly premiums is about $80 a month when comparing the higher coverage to lower coverage at about $500,000 each.
Okay, that's a lot of math you just threw my way. All right, why do I recommend, this was 8 to 12 you're talking about. My formula is really simple. It's just 10 times. And people will say to me, what about, well, I've got this money, or I might get this from the government, or whatever. Your 10X rule is really just hitting something with a pole axe and not using a scalpel. Why do I do that? Because of inflation. We just, again, experienced an ugly bout of inflation. Thank goodness is winding down. But inflation, even at a more modest level, significantly erodes what the value of that policy is. So if you think of it this way, your kids are younger, you're both younger. Right now, the impact of $1.2 million and $1 million is so much greater in your life than 1.2 million or $1 million is going to be 10 years from now, 20 years from now. And at 37 years old, I actually don't want you to do 20-year level term. I want you to look at doing 30 or at least 25-year, carrying more of your working lifetime on the backs of this level term insurance. If you have what today seems like an incredible amount of benefit, you look 20 years out and what the payout is actually worth inflation adjusted, it's going to seem kind of puny. And so that's why I use 10X when you're buying a 20 to 30 year level term. Make sure with a 20 to 30 that the insurer is rated minimum A plus by AM Best, although my preference would be A double plus. And I hope that helps. And you can look at, you want to compare what you've seen elsewhere, you can look at our guide to buying level term insurance at clark.com. And I hope you have an absolutely great, great day. Tomorrow is big stuff. You know what it is? It's Clark Stinks. To end our podcast week and our YouTube show week, where you get to school me, as school has just started in so much of the country, on how to do a better job with the information and advice I provide, the guidance I provide, that I'm more targeted, or certainly if I'm just plain dumb in your opinion, your fellow listener or viewer needs to know that too. And that is tomorrow to serve you. And remember what we're about. It's about you learning ways to save more, spend less, and avoid getting ripped off. See you Friday.